Hi, this is Marcy from Canadian Equality Consulting. I wanted to jump on here and share a quick coffee chat with you to talk about the recent events that have been happening, and talk a bit about race, racism, and equity. So we've all witnessed and seen the horrible murders in the US of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Pierre Coriolan, Tony McDade, and Ahmaud Arbery, just to name a small few. And there are many names in Canada of people that have experienced similar situations of systemic racism and abuse and prejudice in Canada by policing and by others. So I wanted to jump on here because for those of you that are new to EDI or equity, diversity, and inclusion work, there's a lot of terms being shared and kind of EDI jargon that you may not understand. So I wanted to make it more accessible and share some of what that means with you. So, because these are really important topics to understand. So, the first one is about power and privilege. So, privilege is this idea that a person can receive more inherent rights or benefits in society solely because of their race or another identity factor like sex or gender. So, it doesn't matter how hard you work, how qualified you are, as an example, you will not get a promotion if the hiring manager is racist or is sexist and just doesn't like women or doesn't like Black people. So that is an example of a hard no, a hard stop, a barrier that you experience in life. So having privilege means that you have more, just natural benefits in the world, not because of how hard you worked, but only because of your skin color or your language or whatnot, right? And having privilege is also can be seen in that maybe you don't see or even acknowledge that a problem may exist for others because it doesn't affect you personally or you have no awareness of it. And what's interesting is the groups in every different identity category. So if you look at identity categories like race, ethnicity, language, sex, gender, age, those are all different identity categories, ability. Every identity category that has more power over others experience more privilege. So if you look at race, the group within race that has the most power is Caucasians, is white people. So Caucasians are the most privileged in our society, and every other race experiences a certain degree of oppression due to that. And negative biases, microaggressions, stereotypes, and violence is more commonly directed to those that have less power. And by not acknowledging or understanding your own privilege, what happens is you inadvertently gaslight those that are experiencing oppression. Okay, you also hear people talking about systemic racism. So systemic racism is the idea that racism is embedded into our design of government, our policing agencies, our laws, our education curriculum, and our systems and institutions that are in our society. So since our systems were all created in this patriarchal and racist society, of course they're flawed, right? So these biases and flaws in our systems, can be seen in tons of examples. When we look at the incarceration rates of Black people or people of color or Indigenous people, they can be seen in, police brutality rate statistics. They can be seen in violence statistics, pay inequality statistics. Another term that's been talked about a lot right now is allyship, and in order to solve and mitigate the systemic racism, what we really need is everyone to become anti-racist allies. So allyship is a verb, so it's an action word. So allyship is committing to not only just be there for others that are less privileged than you, but also actively supporting and helping them. So some ways you can be an ally is amplify the voices of others, use inclusive language, call out bad behavior whenever it happens, whenever you see it or witness it. Do the work to be self-reflective on yourself as well. Educate yourself. Become a mentor or a sponsor to a Black person or a person of color or an Indigenous person. But something to keep in mind when we become allies is the pedestal effect. So if you have more privilege and you are actively advocating for those with less privilege than you, that's awesome. But if you start getting that attention or that spotlight placed on you, and you start getting recognized, for your work to, become a decent human being, then that's a problem. So what you need to do is, amplify the voices of people with less privilege than you. So do not speak for them and do not speak on behalf of them, but empower and create platforms for them to speak and be understood and be heard. We also hear the terms non-racist versus anti-racist. So this stems from, if you call yourself colorblind, that's a racist action, because it illustrates that people of color and their experiences in life are invisible to you, that you don't even see them, you don't acknowledge they exist. So, and that's, a great example of a lot of privilege. And it's important to note that you can have friends that are Black and still be racist. You can know and respect a coworker that is Black and still be racist. And no one in our society is really 100% non-racist, right? If you live or born or work or were educated or grew up in North America, because our systems are flawed. Our society and culture and the systems within it were designed in this to be patriarchal and with racism. So they're flawed. Racism is ingrained and socialized into all of us. So the only way to combat racism and these injustices is through mindfully and consciously and actively being anti-racist. So there's a number of ways to do this. I'm going to be sharing a lot of resources on how you can become individually and also as a workplace actively anti-racist and an anti-racist ally. So I really look forward to sharing that all with you. I hope this was helpful. Drop me a note and I look forward to hearing from you. So thank you so much.